Hey guys, hope you're doing alright. I recently had a stream where I was doing a lot of testing for hybrid Druid specs. My favorite one was the Wind/Fury Druid. It seemed to be the strongest out of all the ones I tested, so figured I'd just show you a little bit of that gameplay, and if you like it, you can try it out for yourself. Enjoy. Alright, so here is an overview of my gear for this hybrid Wind/Fury Druid for the new patch. Couldn't do this before, but now that you can use Hurricane alongside Werewolf, it's a thing. So I am using a Doom, great poleaxe. This one rolled pretty well with minus 60 cold res. Using a Jalal's, which of course you could socket with something, but I just put all this together real quick today. High Lord's Wrath amulets. I'm using the Enigma, which it has teleport, which you may not think is useful being a wolf, but you could teleport to where you're going before you go there. And the run walk is also very nice with the plus skills as well, just a strength. So it's just a really solid armor all over. Laying of Hands. Ravenfrost. Using a Nosferatu's Coil. Dual Leech Ring. And some Gore Riders. My switch is a CTA and a Spirit, which I can usually use my battle orders before going into a zone, and typically I'll finish the zone before it runs out, so not too shabby. My charms, I could go for more damage, but since I want it to be like a realistic build for me to use, I like to have Magic Find, because I'm always grail hunting, so you could tailor this to your needs. You can see I have 251 MF with my Doom out. I'm using 1 Geeds here, 3 Elemental Skillers, and the rest of these are some sort of MF, mostly 7 MFers. So there's that, and then there's an Annie and a Druid Torch. My bodyguard is using Infinity, Fortitude, and an Andy's Visage. This is definitely not a budget build, but you can make it work on a budget. Just to show you a few other items you could use, weapons in particular. You could use a Windhammer on a budget, and it works quite well. It's not as good as the Doom, but it's still very good. There's the Breath of the Dying, which is not budget, but it does work pretty much just as well as the Doom. So you get to choose your favorite. Between Doom, Breath of the Dying, and Eth Reaper's Toll, I felt like they all performed roughly similarly. I'm able to do a Chaos Run in about 2 minutes and 40 seconds on average, using any of those 3 weapons. So, but if you need a budget Windhammer, you can use like IK Hammer, something like that, and you will be just fine. I also tested it with a F Tomb Reaver, which I don't have on me anymore, but the F Tomb Reaver was also similar speeds, and it has extra MF on top of that, so if you're looking for MF in particular, that's definitely not a bad choice. Alright, and that's the gear. The talents for this build, I actually didn't put any into summoning. I messed around and put like 1 point into Grizzly, but the Oak Sage just dies instantly. It seems like a waste of time unless you want to just recast it all the time, which unless you're doing PvP I wouldn't recommend. The Grizzly actually stays alive, so if you do like having a tanky Grizzly just walking behind you mostly, you're usually outrunning them by quite a margin, then you can always summon them. But if you're like me and you don't want to deal with it, just ignore the summoning tree. For Elemental, I maxed out Cyclone Armor, Twister, Tornado, and Hurricane. Shapeshifting, I maxed out Lycanthropy. No, I didn't, sorry. I put 1 point in Lycanthropy. I put in 14 points into Werewolf. 8 points into Fury. I kind of split between Werewolf and Fury. I put points into Werewolf until the attack speed kind of leveled off. The attack speed would go up for each point until around level 14, or I guess 28. It started tapering off, so... And then I started putting more into Fury to get a little bit more damage. And the reason I picked Werewolf over Fury for most of my points is because it has attack speed and attack rating. And attack rating is a little bit lacking on this build, you get more points of attack rating per point in Werewolf than you do in Fury. So that was kind of my logic behind that. Depending on your gear setup, you may want to do that differently. You may want more into Fury, or yeah, your call. Just depends on what gear you're using. I think this is a very flexible build. Like, you can use Fortitude, you could use more caster stuff if you'd rather more hurricane damage. So there's a lot of choices you could use, but this is just the one I ended up using today. Okay, let me show you a quick chaos run using this Wind Fury hybrid build. Show you how it works. So you'll come over here, use your shouts. You'll want to use Cyclone Armor and, well, Cyclone Armor doesn't really make a big difference, but for Hurricane, you want to try to cast Hurricane with the Call to Arms and Spirit out, because it does more damage. You can see I do 2.1k, versus if when my Doom is out, it only does 2k, so an extra 100. So I guess it really doesn't make a huge difference, but if you're trying to be as efficient as possible, cast that. I like to use Teleport to get to the Chaos Sanctuary, but if you want to clean up the river, you're welcome to do so. After you get here, go ahead and transform into a wolf and swap weapons. And then you can see how this goes. I use Feral Rage on one click, Fury on the other. You can see it clears pretty quick. The Doom will spawn volcanoes every now and then, which is pretty cool style points. It's not, they don't actually do damage, the tornadoes, the volcanoes, but they do look cool. And that's really the most important thing, I think. So there's that. And you can see, I'll show you how much damage the Hurricane itself does. Ooh, Grand Charm. So if I just stand next to these guys, I don't auto attack. You could see they're dying pretty quick, right? Not these guys, they're cold immune. But in general, the non-cold immunes, if you just focus the cold immunes down, these guys will just die to the Hurricane. So it's pretty powerful. The Venom Lords, they take a little bit longer, like 4 to 5 Hurricane takes. So those guys, you may want to give them the smackdown. But for these guys, you could just stand here and boom, gone. So not too bad. Try to keep a couple stacks of Feral Rage here for the movement speed especially. You run pretty quick. When you're playing this guy, I'd probably stick to areas where you could kind of run. So Chaos Sanctuary is pretty good. Pits are pretty good. The new Arachnid's Lair, now that it's a level 85 zone. Pretty solid. Oh, gotta keep my Hurricane up, don't want to forget. It's a significant part of my damage here, so definitely don't want to miss it. I'll even show you the damage without Hurricane. After it runs off, I'll try not to refresh it, so you can get an idea for just how much I'm doing melee versus Hurricane. Be careful with the Lord Decise, because it looks like he's spawning in weird spots since the patch. I've had him spawn like right on top of the seal. Don't want to get hurt, so cautious. I think the Hurricane lasts 50 seconds, so it should be down in just a second or two. Maybe I'll give it a second, let it go. I was averaging about 2 minutes and 40 seconds per Chaos run when I was actually trying to go fast. I'm taking my time here to show you. Okay, so Hurricane's gone, so this is how fast I clear without Hurricane. You can see my melee is pretty good. Like, I can clear with just Hurricane, and I can clear with just melee. Both work just fine, as you can see. So it is a really solid hybrid build, which you really couldn't do this before. So this is pretty exciting stuff with this new patch. I'm quite happy about it. And I'll show you Diablo real quick. I do have some Crushing Blow. My stats aren't min-maxed or anything. I just put enough strength and dexterity for my gear, but I put a little bit more dexterity than that, just because I wanted a little bit more attack rating. You kind of do whatever feels right for you, but I like just having a little extra. Not sure what kind of hurt me there. Alright, yeah, that's a Chaos Run. Pretty simple. You could also do, like I said, Arachnid's Lair, the pits. If you've never been to Arachnid's Lair before, which you may not have because it wasn't really a spot to farm before now. But now that it is, you just go to Act 3, Spider Forest. And it's just right next to that waypoint. Easy peasy. You don't need teleport or anything. So if you don't have your Enigma yet, come right on over here and you'll be just fine. I don't even have to attack them. My whirlwind will just, or hurricane rather, will just kill everything. I can play one-handed, easy peasy. And this zone here can drop everything in the game now. Which, if you're not grailing, you don't really need to kill in level 85 zones. But that's a whole nother video here. Only if you're trying to collect all the super rare items do you want to be in these 85 zones. And if you get stuck in like a corner like this, it is quicker if you have an Enigma to even unshift and then teleport and then reshift. Like that doesn't take that long. It is a little annoying. I really wish they would let me teleport as a wolf. Like I don't think that would break things, but you know, it is what it is. Still very strong build, and it should work with a budget gear. I'm showing you with pretty GG gear here, but if you get like a wind hammer, ooh, a yellow unearthed wand, that was close. If you get like a regular wind hammer, or in like a treachery, so whatever yellow boots will be fine. You should be just fine. You're not going to be smashing things, but you'll still be able to clear the game. So, yeah, that's the playthrough. Pretty straightforward, not too tricky. So, to recap, this was the Wind/Fury hybrid druid. I showed a variety of different weapon choices. I think my favorites were the Doom, the Breath of the Dying, and the Reaper's Toll. All three worked very similarly, so you get to pick your favorite. If you want to see the full stream where I tested like all the weapons I could think of, plus the other different hybrid druids like the Armageddon Fury Druid, the Summoner Fury Druid, I tried all those, and they all seem like they're in a pretty good spot. I think with this new patch, they did the Druid pretty well. Most of them work solidly, I would say. I do feel like the Wind Fury hybrid is the strongest based off of my testing, but it's still really early, so we'll see what everyone figures out. Hope you all enjoyed the video. Good luck, and catch you next time. Farewell.